She enrolled in college with a mission, not a dream. Undercover, trained, and laser-focused, Elena Reyes has one job: get close to the quiet, enigmatic son of a criminal empire and help bring it down from the inside. But as lines blur and truths unravel, Elena begins to question everything she thought she knew about the case, about him, and about herself. Hello family, welcome to Storytime with Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Elena Reyes stared at her reflection in the mirror of the dorm bathroom, adjusting the gold hoops in her ears for the third time. Not too flashy. Not too plain. She needed to be noticeable, just enough to make an impression, not a memory. Around her, the hum of campus life buzzed like a slow current, shoes squeaking down hallway tiles, a girl somewhere on her floor laughing too loud, music leaking faintly from under a closed door. Whitestone University felt like the beginning of something fresh. New people, new classes, new opportunities. For most students. Not for her. She wasn't here for the degree. The mirror fogged slightly from someone else's shower steam, and Elena wiped it away with her sleeve. Behind her sharp eyes and calm expression was a pulse that ran hot. She had passed every physical test at Quantico, every psychological screening, and had graduated top 10 in the Bureau's youth recruit program. She'd trained for 2 years for this moment. She was ready. But even with all that training, something about slipping into the skin of a freshman again felt eerie. She exited the bathroom and walked down the hallway toward her dorm room, her FBI-issued ID card tucked deep in a locked safe under her bed. Her name, legally and socially, was now Elena Jordan, political science major from Atlanta, daughter of a systems analyst and a high school principal. Her backstory was airtight. She had a roommate, some girl named Sienna who seemed glued to her phone and barely acknowledged her existence since move-in day. That was fine. Less attention made the job easier. Elena sat on her bed, laced up her sneakers, and opened her laptop. There it was, an encrypted portal buried behind dummy layers of an alumni networking app. Once logged in, she typed her daily check-in report. Subject 001, Leo Moretti. Status, initial contact pending. Location confirmed. Enrolled as sophomore, economics major. Dorm residence, South Hall. No sightings yet. No activity of interest. Will initiate proximity via shared lecture tomorrow. Her fingers hovered above the keys for a moment. She added, no signs of security detail. So far, behavior consistent with that of a normal student. She hit send and shut the laptop. The boy she was here for, the one whose last name had made seasoned agents stiffen, was only 2 buildings away. Leo Moretti, son of Vincenzo Moretti, one of the most calculated and bloodless crime bosses in modern history. Word in the Bureau was that the father had plans for the son, grooming him in silence. Leo had disappeared off the grid for 2 years, then suddenly popped back up, in a college classroom. It didn't make sense. And that's why she was here. Her mission was clear: get close, gain intel, build the case. The end goal? Help the FBI bring down the Moretti family from the inside out. If Leo was involved, he'd go down too. Elena grabbed her bag and headed out, letting the door click shut behind her. The sun was warm as she stepped outside, the scent of freshly cut grass and late summer sweat riding the breeze. Students milled around the quad in clusters, some tossing frisbees, others lying in the grass reading. All of it looked so normal. She didn't feel normal. She felt like a loaded weapon hiding in plain sight. As she made her way across campus toward her first class, she told herself the same thing her handler had drilled into her over and over again. He's just another target. Don't lose focus. But the voice in her chest, low, quiet, and unshakably human, whispered something else. The lecture hall smelled faintly of coffee, whiteboard marker, and too much ambition. Elena slipped into a seat near the middle of the room. Close enough to engage, far enough to observe. She pulled out a notebook, a smooth black pen, and her carefully worn-in laptop. Her eyes scanned the rows like a radar sweep. She knew what she was looking for. She'd studied the file for weeks. Leo Moretti, 20 years old, economics major, private school background, quiet disposition, a history of transferring schools with no obvious trail. She hadn't seen a recent photo. The bureau didn't have one, at least not one they were willing to show her. The best they could offer was a blurry yearbook image from high school, long before he vanished from public view. Her job now was to make contact. Form a bond. Get close. The professor entered with a thunder of dropped books and half-hearted greetings. Elena was still scanning the room when someone sat down 2 seats over. She glanced casually. There he was. Leo Moretti had the kind of presence that didn't demand attention, but quietly held it anyway. Smooth dark skin, short locks neatly tied back, a calm confidence in the way he settled into his chair like he had already mastered the moment. He wore a black crewneck, gray joggers, and spotless white sneakers. Nothing flashy, but polished. Intentional. He pulled out a notebook. Not a laptop, an actual notebook, pages creased and corners worn. Elena noted that. No tech reliance. Maybe caution. Or maybe just old school. The professor droned on about Keynesian theory. Elena barely heard it. Every few minutes, she caught herself glancing sideways. Leo wasn't looking at her. He was focused, pen moving smoothly across the paper, brow furrowed in a way that made it clear he wasn't pretending. This wasn't some Mafia Heir coasting through school because of power. He was actually working. She waited until the end of the lecture to make her move. No rush. No heat. As the class filed out, she slung her bag over her shoulder and stepped up beside him in the hallway. "Hey," she said casually. "You're good with econ stuff?" Leo looked up, surprised, but not suspicious. "I guess," he said, offering a slight smile. "Depends on the day." She laughed. "Well, today was not my day. That stuff about market equilibrium went completely over my head. I'm Elena." "Leo." He offered his hand, firm and warm. Elena shook it, the moment lingering just half a second longer than it should have. "Electricity, or maybe nerves." "You got plans tomorrow?" she asked, keeping her tone light. "I was going to go over the lecture notes again. Could use a smarter brain nearby." He hesitated just a beat, calculating. Then, yeah. "Sure. I'll be at the campus cafe around 2. "Perfect." They parted ways, her pulse ticking a little faster than usual. She texted her handler the update under the pretense of checking her mom's car insurance renewal app. Initial contact made. Subject seems cautious but open. Invited to study session tomorrow. Observation. Subject is academically serious. No overt signs of criminal behavior. More to follow. She pocketed the phone and looked across the quad where Leo was walking, head down, notebook tucked under one arm. He didn't look like a prince of crime. He looked like someone just trying to get through the week without falling behind on homework. But Elena had learned not to trust appearances. Still, something about him, his focus, his quietness, that soft, lopsided smile, was already starting to scrape at her defenses. And for the first time since taking the assignment, she felt the smallest ripple of doubt. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and roasted espresso beans, a cozy contrast to the sharp tension building in Elena's chest. She sat at a small table by the window, her econ textbook spread open in front of her like it mattered. Her eyes kept flicking toward the door, watching. Waiting. Leo arrived right on time, notebook in hand, hoodie pulled low over his brows. Not hiding, just guarded. His eyes scanned the room instinctively, first the door, then the exits, then the corners. A habit, maybe. A learned behavior. Elena made a mental note, but didn't react. "Hey," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Hey," she smiled. "Thanks for meeting me. I figured 2 brains are better than 1. Leo shrugged lightly. "I've got midterms coming up. Could use the review too." They opened their notes, laptops, books. For the first hour, they actually studied. He was sharp, patient, the kind of guy who didn't just memorize formulas but understood the why behind them. Elena found herself genuinely learning from him, occasionally forgetting this was supposed to be an op. But the mission snapped back into focus when Leo excused himself for the restroom. Alone at the table, Elena's eyes drifted toward his notebook, still open beside his untouched coffee. She hesitated only a second, then leaned in. No criminal codes. No transaction logs. No hidden messages. Instead, her eyes caught fragments of a personal journal. Half-written sentences scrawled between the margins of graphs and class notes. I'm tired of pretending I'm something I'm not. Sometimes I wonder if he'd still call me his son if I said I wanted out. I just want to build something real. Something mine. I can't run forever, but I don't know how to stay. Her breath caught. This wasn't the diary of a criminal in training. It was the diary of someone drowning quietly in the weight of a legacy he never wanted. She shut the notebook just before he returned. "Everything good?" he asked, sliding back into his seat. "Yeah," she said too quickly, pulling herself together. "Totally." They wrapped up their session not long after. Leo offered to walk her back to her dorm, and she accepted, mostly in silence. As they reached her building, he hesitated at the steps. "You ever feel like you were born into the wrong story?" he asked suddenly. The question hung in the air between them like fog. Elena blinked. "What do you mean?" Leo looked at the ground, then back at her. "Like the world already decided who you are before you even had a chance to choose." Her chest tightened. "Yeah, I know that feeling." He gave a tired smile. "Thought you might." And just like that, he turned and walked away into the evening light, his silhouette dissolving into campus shadows. Elena stood frozen on the steps, pulse racing. She should have felt clarity, intel gathered, target profiled, a job well done. Instead, she felt a knot forming in her stomach. He was supposed to be a threat, a criminal, a future kingpin. But everything he showed her, his words, his actions, his eyes, told a different story. A story she wasn't sure she was ready to betray. It started with a late-night text. "Leo, you up? Can't sleep. Walk with me?" Elena stared at the message, the screen glowing soft blue in the dark of her dorm. She hesitated, then grabbed her hoodie, slipped on her sneakers, and left without thinking twice. Outside, the campus was quiet. The night had wrapped Whitestone in cool shadows and distant cricket sounds. The world felt paused. Leo was waiting under the archway near the main library, hands in his pockets, eyes skyward. "You okay?" she asked as she approached. He nodded, then glanced at her. Couldn't stop thinking. "About what?" He smiled faintly. "About how I used to think this place would feel like freedom." They walked in silence for a while, cutting across the grass and down toward the edge of the lake, where campus lights gave way to stars. Elena kept stealing glances at him. He looked tired. Not in a sleep-deprived way, more like his soul was worn thin. "When I got accepted here," Leo said finally, his voice low, "I thought this was my out. I thought if I just did well, built something from scratch, it would be enough to prove I wasn't like him." Him didn't need a name. Elena knew exactly who he meant. "You ever think maybe people can't escape their blood?" he asked. "I used to," she said. "But I don't anymore." Leo looked at her. "Why not?" "Because people aren't just made of blood. They're made of choices. That's the part that counts." He watched her for a moment, something shifting behind his eyes. Like he wanted to believe her, but didn't know how. "I don't want to be my father," he said. "I want to be someone different. Build something legit. No lies. No violence. Just something real." Elena swallowed hard. The words hit too close. They weren't part of the mission. They were too raw, too human. Too real. She was supposed to be gathering intel, building rapport, setting the trap. Instead, she found herself asking questions that weren't in the playbook, sharing stories that weren't fabricated, laughing without checking if it would blow her cover. She was falling, slowly, recklessly, completely. Over the next few weeks, it became routine. Study sessions turned into dinners. Dinners turned into music sharing, walks, late-night conversations. He told her about his love for coding, for building apps with clean designs and real-world impact. She told him half-truths about growing up in a strict household, about pressure and expectations, and being good at hiding what you feel. She stopped reporting everything. At first it was small, conversations that felt irrelevant to the mission. Then it was whole days she didn't mention at all. And somewhere in the quiet between one moment and the next, she kissed him. It wasn't planned. There was no strategy. No angle. It happened on the library steps after he walked her home from a long, rainy afternoon of tutoring and teasing and a shared umbrella. He looked at her, brow furrowed like he didn't quite understand what was happening between them, but wanted to. And then she leaned in, heart pounding, and kissed him. His hand came to her cheek, tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear. But she didn't. And that terrified her more than anything. because she was supposed to be a spy. But now, she was something else entirely. She was his. And in just a few days, she was supposed to help destroy everything he'd ever known. The folder sat on her bed like it weighed 50 pounds. Inside was everything. Finalized raid schedule, arrest warrants, target profiles. A red circle drawn in ink around Leo Moretti's name. Elena hadn't opened it for hours. She just stared at it, heart thudding like a warning drum. Outside, the campus moved on, students laughing in the hallway, a party starting down the block, life oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. Tomorrow, at 6 a.m., the FBI would move in. Leo would be arrested. Unless she stopped it. Unless she ruined everything she had worked for. Unless she told him the truth. She pulled on a jacket and left the room without thinking, the folder untouched. The campus library was mostly empty, glowing in a kind of quiet that always made Elena feel like time had slowed down. She knew where to find him. Same corner as always, 4th floor, back row, facing the window, music in one earbud and a pen in his hand. He didn't see her at first. He was scribbling something, maybe code, maybe a business plan, maybe another one of those quiet dreams she'd grown addicted to hearing about. "Elena," he said, surprised when she finally approached. "What are you doing here?" She didn't answer. Just sat down across from him, hands shaking. He noticed instantly. "Hey, what's wrong?" She looked at him, really looked at him. Eyes so familiar now it hurt. Everything inside her screamed not to say the words. But she had to. She couldn't let him walk into a prison cell blind. She took a breath. "I lied to you." Leo went still. "What do you mean?" She looked down, then back at him. "My name is Elena Reyes. I'm not just a student. I'm with the FBI. I was sent here to get close to you. To spy on you. They think you're part of your father's business. That you're the key to taking it all down." The silence between them was deafening. Leo didn't move. His eyes didn't blink. "I thought you were lying at first," she rushed on. "Pretending to be something you're not. But you weren't. You're not like him. You just wanted a normal life. You're good, Leo." "Why are you telling me this?" he asked, voice low, unreadable. "Because tomorrow morning they're coming for you. You're on the list. And I can't." Her voice broke. "I can't let them take you." Leo pushed back in his chair slowly, hands clenching into fists at his sides. "So all this, everything we shared, was part of your mission?" "No," she said quickly. "Not after I got to know you. I didn't mean to, God, Leo. I didn't mean to fall in love with you." He blinked as if the words were foreign. Then a flash of betrayal cut through his face. "I trusted you. I know. You used me. I did at first," she admitted, tears now falling freely. "But not anymore. I swear. Please just go. Run. Tonight. Before they come. Don't let them take you down for something you didn't choose." For a long moment, Leo didn't move. Then he turned, quietly picked up his notebook, and walked away without a word. Elena stood there in the empty library, shaking, sobbing, empty. The next morning, at exactly 6 a.m., the FBI swarmed. Dozens of arrests. Known lieutenants. Enforcers. Key associates of the Moretti crime syndicate. But Leo Moretti? Gone. No trace. No footprints. And somewhere in the chaos of shouted orders and cuffs clicking into place, Elena stood beside her handler, heart cracked in half, whispering the only truth she still had left. He didn't deserve this. Elena didn't return to class. Officially, she was pulled off campus for debriefing and reassignment. Unofficially, she was being watched closely. Her superiors hadn't said it outright, but she could feel it, the subtle, tightened leash. They knew she had warned him. They just couldn't prove it. Weeks passed. Then months. The news ran stories about the historic bust of the Moretti crime family. Agents smiling behind microphones. Headlines reading Major Organized Crime Syndicate Crumbles After Undercover College Operation. Her work had helped dismantle a decades-old criminal empire. They called it a win. Elena didn't feel like she'd won anything. She tried to move forward. Tried to tell herself she did the right thing. Leo had escaped. He was free. Maybe he was building the life he dreamed about. Apps, clean money, a name that wasn't weighed down by blood. But still, he hadn't called. Hadn't written. Hadn't reached out. Not once. She told herself she understood. He probably hated her. Maybe he should. But it didn't stop her from checking her phone every night, or replaying that kiss, or reading his old notes, carefully scanned into a private drive like memories she couldn't delete. By midwinter, she had transferred to a field office in D.C., mostly desk work, background analysis off the radar. The bureau didn't say why, but she knew. Her emotional attachment had made her a liability. She was still on the payroll, still in the system, but they didn't trust her anymore. And sometimes she didn't blame them. It was late March when it happened. A quiet Sunday evening. She was walking home from the corner store, hoodie up, earbuds in, a bag of ramen and ginger ale tucked under her arm. That's when the van pulled up. The tires screeched too fast. The door slid open too quick. Hands grabbed her before she could scream. Something sharp pressed to her side, cold, hard, and unmistakably a gun. The world blurred. Darkness swallowed everything. She woke up in a warehouse. Cold concrete beneath her. Wrists zip-tied. Head pounding. A figure stood nearby, dimly lit by a flickering overhead bulb. Her breath caught. Leo. His locks were longer now. His face a little thinner. But it was him. He stood with his arms crossed, silent, unreadable. "What the hell, Leo?" she whispered, her throat dry. He didn't answer. She tried to sit up. Is this payback? For warning you? For telling you the truth?" Still nothing. And then another voice echoed through the warehouse. Thicker. Rougher. Worn with years of command and violence. Well. So this is the little snitch who ruined everything. Vincenzo Moretti. The Don himself stepped into the light, flanked by armed men with dead eyes and twitchy fingers. Elena's heart jackhammered in her chest. "She's the one," Vincenzo asked, turning to his son. "This is the girl who sold out her country for a badge?" Leo said nothing. "Tell me," the Don growled, moving closer. "Did she play you? Or did you just let her?" One of the guards cocked a gun behind her. Another moved forward to grab her chin, force her to look up. Elena's muscles tensed. Her heart had accepted that death might be waiting. But then Leo stepped forward. And everything stopped. "No one touches her," he said. His voice was cold. Solid. Final. His father turned to him, confused. "What did you just say?" "I said no one touches her." The guards froze. The air in the room thickened. Then flashing lights. Glass shattered. The warehouse exploded into chaos as FBI agents stormed the building. Gunshots. Shouts. Red dots dancing across the chests of mafia lieutenants. Vincenzo Moretti was wrestled to the ground, snarling. The last of his empire fell around him like a crumbling fortress. Elena sat in stunned silence as agents swarmed. Leo knelt beside her, pulling a knife from his pocket and slicing through the zip ties around her wrists. "You okay?" he asked softly. She looked at him, completely stunned. What is this? How?" He helped her to her feet, his expression serious, but not cold. "I went back," he said. "After I left campus. I turned myself in. Told them I'd help finish the job." She blinked. "Why?" He paused, then said quietly, "Because I wanted out, and I wanted to protect you." "But the kidnapping, this." "A setup," he said. "To draw him out. To make him believe I was still on his side." Elena staggered back a step, shaking her head. "You could have been killed." "So could you." They stood there in the middle of the chaos, surrounded by the downfall of everything Leo had once been born into. And for the first time, Elena saw not the boy she had been sent to destroy, but the man who chose to break the cycle himself. Rain slicked the concrete outside the warehouse as ambulances and black SUVs lined the street. Red and blue lights pulsed against the walls, flashing like a heartbeat in panic. Agents shouted commands. Cuffed men cursed. The air was heavy with gasoline, sweat, and justice. But Elena couldn't hear any of it. All she could hear was Leo's voice replaying in her head. "I turned myself in to protect you." They stood together in the corner of the warehouse, away from the chaos, framed by the broken remains of a criminal empire. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice barely above the hum of the storm outside. "Why put me through all that?" Leo leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes tired but focused. "Because I needed him to believe I was still loyal. I couldn't risk anything slipping. Not if we were going to take him down for good." "You kidnapped me," she said, half laughing through her shock. "You really sold it." "I had to," he replied. He wouldn't have shown up unless he believed I had turned completely cold. Elena shook her head slowly, overwhelmed. I thought you hated me. I did, he admitted, voice low. For about 5 minutes. Then I realized you gave up everything to warn me. You could have stayed silent and walked away clean. But you didn't. He looked at her now, eyes stripped of every mask. You saved me. She wanted to deny it. Wanted to say he saved himself. That he always had that strength. But the way he was looking at her, the way his voice trembled just enough, it told her he hadn't had anyone believe in him for a long, long time. You turned yourself in, she repeated, trying to absorb it. You worked with them. For months. He nodded. And now it's done. As if on cue, one of the senior FBI agents approached, nodding toward Leo. We'll debrief him at the field office. Paperwork, processing, the whole deal. After that, we'll talk immunity. Elena stepped forward. He held up his end. He delivered the dawn. You keep your word. The agent nodded. We always do. Leo gave her a small smile as they led him toward the black SUV, his hands no longer in cuffs, just pockets. Before he stepped in, he turned back to her. You know, he said softly, after all this, I still haven't figured out how I feel about the fact that you lied to me. Elena's breath caught. Leo, but, he added, I've also never met someone who lied to protect me before. She took a shaky step toward him. So, what does that mean? It means, he said, maybe after all this is over, we start again. She blinked, then smiled. Clean slate. Clean as it gets, he said. No blood. No badges. Just truth. Then he got into the SUV and disappeared into the blinking lights and rain, leaving Elena standing in the ruins of everything they'd survived. 6 months later, the world moved slower. Elena Reyes sat at a quiet cafe in a neighborhood far from Washington, far from field reports, sting operations, and double lives. A tiny place on the edge of Baltimore, with real brick walls and handwritten menus. She liked it here. No one knew her name. No one looked at her like a story. Just a girl with a latte and a laptop. Her badge was still tucked in a drawer somewhere. Technically, she was still FBI, on an extended leave of absence, a status no one questioned. After everything that happened, they seemed content to let her disappear from the front lines. And she didn't fight it. She needed the quiet. She needed the time to feel human again. The case had made headlines for weeks. Don Vincenzo Moretti sentenced to life without parole. FBI confirms collapse of Moretti syndicate. Son of Mafia Don cooperates in historic federal operation. Leo's name was kept out of the spotlight. His deal included full immunity and sealed records. The world would never know what he gave up or what he risked. But Elena knew. And that was enough. The cafe door chimed behind her. She didn't look up right away. Not until a shadow passed her table and a familiar voice said quietly, "Still take your coffee with cinnamon?" Her head snapped up. There he was. Leo stood in the soft afternoon light, wearing a navy button-up, jeans, and a backpack slung over one shoulder. His locks were tied back, his beard a little fuller, his eyes still steady and quiet, but warmer now. Lighter. Leo, she breathed. He smiled, the same half-smile that had once melted through all her defenses. You got a minute? He asked. She blinked through the rush of emotion, then nodded. Yeah, always. He sat across from her, setting down his cup. For a moment, neither of them said anything. There wasn't pressure anymore. Just space, open and real. I've been in Oakland, he said. Working with a nonprofit, tech mentorship for kids coming out of tough homes. Teaching code, entrepreneurship, giving them something to build. Elena felt her chest warm. That's perfect for you. He shrugged, almost shy. It feels right. Like I'm building something clean. Something I don't have to hide from. She hesitated. And now, I'm back on the East Coast for a few weeks. Thought I'd see if this city still had something I left behind. Her lips curved slowly. You're just in time. I'm trying to remember what life feels like when it's not a mission. They sat in the quiet hum of the cafe, the weight between them finally lifted. No secrets. No lies. Just two people who had made it through something that should have broken them, and chose not to run from what remained. So, she said, teasing, what are we now, Leo Moretti? He leaned forward, eyes never leaving hers. We're a clean slate, he said. If you still want it. She reached across the table, fingers brushing his. I do. And for the first time in a long, long while, Elena Reyes wasn't an agent. She wasn't undercover. She wasn't pretending. She was just a woman choosing love in the open. And he was a man who finally got to live free of his father's name. Together, they were more than what they'd been sent to do. They were who they chose to become.